The doctor that pushes the boundaries of physics. The husband that's always a few steps behind. The children, the science, the horror. David Cronenberg's The Brood, 1979. The ultimate experience in inner terror. They're waiting for you. Okay, let's get down to the basics of this. Let me try and sum this movie up the best way I can. So 1979, so you know what you're in for. Done by David Cronenberg, who's known for his sci-fi and body horror blends, who still does films to this day. Now he's been collaborating with Robert Pattinson. He did Cosmopolis in 2012, and he's working on a movie called Maps to the Stars, also with Robert Pattinson as his next film. He just turned 70. In this one, we get the dwarf killers. Let me try and sum up the plot. And there really is no explaining the plot without telling you the whole gist and the whole spoilers of the whole film to really explain it all. Basically, it takes place during a custody battle. We have the husband who's taking care of the kid, and the wife's at the mental institute who's gone crazy over the past year. And she's staying at this psychotherapy institute run by Dr. Raglan, played by Oliver Reed, who does these incomprehensible tactics that he calls psychoplasmics, in which he basically antagonizes the patient's suppressed emotions who have gone through traumatic experiences in the past. So much so, he psychologically torments them, emotionally, verbally, and to the point where that these all emotions erupt to the surface physically, and each patient reacts differently. One guy might get who has suppressed memories. He might antagonize him, and he gets like these random chicken pox spots on him. That's the opening scene. But then his main specimen, played by Samantha Eggar, I believe, is the main woman who he bears the children with. What happens to her is she has these suppressed memories, and the way that she reacts is she ends up producing these dwarf-like killers that act as her emotional rage physically and obey her commands without even her knowing, because they manifested out of her, like straight out of her belly, like the mustard from like Charles Barkley in that commercial. And so that's what we get. Then it plays out like a slasher. Then that's when the horror comes in, because these kids get revenge for her. They end up killing her dad, who, abused her as a kid, and her mom, who psychologically abused her as a kid. And then it gets to the climax. I give the grade a C. I'm going to go over spoilers for the complete ending. This is where we get the best. There just aren't that many great movie moments. It sounds like an awesome story that I explained, and if you watch the trailer and everything, you're like, it's badass, But they keep that a secret for most of the movie, so there isn't much to go on. So it's all 70s dry throughout, And then we get to the ending where she's birthing more childs asexually, And she's raging, and the guy's trying to get the daughter back because she still has legal rights to visit her kid. And so the kid's staying there, and then the dad finally rescues the daughter, typical ending that you saw coming. And what he ends up doing is he strangles her with his bare hands, and the kids die at the same moment as they die and collapse. You know, this kind of like Trade Federation robots, the same style at the end of Phantom Menace, how they end up all falling down at the same moment when Anakin blows up the Trade Federation battle droid ship. That's exactly what happens with the dwarf, the brood kids. The brood of kids. See, like I was saying, I have no more to say about this. Tell me your thoughts on it or whatnot. This was JBM for Mr. Creepshow 9. Click on the channel for more horror, sci-fi, and comic book reviews.